I spent over $3 million on direct-to-seller marketing to get real estate deals, and today I'm going to share with you the top 10 lessons that I have learned on that journey, so you don't have to make the mistakes or spend the money. You can just start getting the results. Now, if you're new to my channel, my name is Ryan Pineda. I've bought over $100 million worth of real estate, and I would love for you to join our community at wealthyuniversity.com. It's completely free to join, so go check it out. All right, let's hop into lesson one. High ROI is both good and bad. What exactly do I mean by that? Well, when you first get started with direct-to-seller marketing, usually most people are not going to spend very much money. They might only spend $500 a month, $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, and so they're not spending a ton of money, and in many cases, they may not get a return because they don't get a deal, right? So if you get no return, then your ROI was 0x, which for those of you who can't count is 0. Now, on the other hand, okay, let's say you spend $1,000 and you actually get a deal from it, and that deal makes you $20,000. Well, now all of a sudden, you've got a 20x ROI. I mean, everybody would say, man, if I could give $1 and get 20 back, I'm going to just put as many dollars as I can into it, right? Well, that's actually not what most real estate investors that I found do. They might go spend $1,000, $2,000 a month, and they might get a deal every single month, and they never increase their spending. And so part of that is why I'm saying, you know, good ROI is both good and bad, because at some point, you actually don't want a high ROI. If you're currently getting, say, a 10x ROI on your marketing, I'll get real estate investors who say that. They're like, Ryan, dude, I get 10x on my marketing. I'm killing it. I'm doing this. I'm doing that. My first question is, well, why are you only getting a 10x? You should be getting lower because you should be spending more money until you get to the point where it doesn't make sense anymore, where you start to get those diminishing returns. And so to illustrate this point, let's say you were spending $5,000 a month and that was producing $50K of wholesale in your business. I mean, that's an incredible return. That's a 10x. All of us would be very happy with that. But I would say, well, dude, why aren't you trying to spend at least 10K or 20K? Now, maybe you don't get a 10x return anymore, but maybe you get a 5x, right? 5x of 20K means you make 100K. And at the end of the day, when you just look at the net of each, you spent 5K to make 50K, therefore you made 45K. And then on this one, you spent 20K to make 100K, therefore you made 80K. The person who made 80K made more money overall. And I don't know about you, but I'm in the business of making as much money as I can. So I would rather take the guy who has a 5x doing 20K to make 100K versus the person who has a 10X doing 5K to make 50K. This person needs to spend more money. So this is why I say having a high ROI is both good and bad. At some point, you got to start scaling to spend more. And I'll tell you, for us, the minimum ROI that we look for is a 3X in this business. Anything below a 3X, you're in very bad territory once you start paying out commissions and everything else. But a 3X is, for me, the minimum acceptable ROI I'm looking for. And so in the grand scheme of it, right, to just play with this example even more, what if I could spend $100,000, right, and then that made me $300,000? Well, if I spend 100 to make 300, I'm going to make 200K overall. Well, I would rather make 200K than 45K or 80K. Therefore, the 3X works at the end of the day. So, high ROI. If you're getting over 10X or you're doing something incredible, spend more money, get your ROI lower, and make more money overall. Number two, marketing is like fashion. So it's always going in and out of style. Whatever is the hot thing at the moment is going to get oversaturated and played out. And guess what? Things that were cool 5 years ago become relevant again, just like fashion. So here's what I mean, right? I'll tell you, back in 2018, this new thing came on the scene that people were having great success with. It was called cold calling. And if you think about it, right, cold calling is not a new thing. Cold calling is like the only way people marketed ever since they created the phone. You know, people were in the boiler rooms cold calling just potential prospects in all industries. And then all of a sudden, for real estate investing, nobody was really ever doing it at big scale until around 2017, 2018. That's when all these companies started to pop up with skip tracing and data services, and VA started to become more popular, and people realized like, oh dude, we could get data, and then we can hire VAs, and then we could cold call at scale. And guess what? There was this huge boom in cold calling for the next bunch of years. And then, all these laws came out and basically made cold calling and text messaging a lot harder, and therefore it became less competitive. There are far less people doing cold calling today than there were a few years ago, just because they've fallen off from when it was in its style, right? Another one I'll tell you that came back in style for me, and I've kind of transitioned away from it, was TV commercials. In 2020, I started doing TV commercials. Now, everybody was saying in 2020, dude, nobody's doing TV. Like, that doesn't work. And guess what? TV's been around for decades, right? It's been around a really long time. And it was how things were always sold, right? Infomercials, commercials, all that different stuff. And so real estate investors weren't really using TV. And then all of a sudden, I started doing it in 2020, me and along with a few other good real estate investors. And then sure enough, they started to see our success. And so everybody started jumping on the bandwagon over the next couple of years. Now, TV is a lot more competitive than it was 4 years ago, okay? So where do things stand today? Well, I mean, like, a big trend I see today everybody liking is pay per lead, PPL. This is where you can just straight up buy leads from these providers who are generating the leads themselves. You don't know how they're generating it. You don't know who else they're selling it to. There's a lot of pros and cons with PPL, but point is, it is a very hot, trendy thing right now that people are talking about and doing. And at some point, it's going to get really competitive, and other things are going to come back in style. You know, I've heard people saying like, oh, direct mail is killing it for me right now. Dude, when I first got into flipping, this was in 2015, everybody was just talking about direct mail. They said direct mail is the only way to get deals. And it was true back then. Tons of people were killing it with direct mail, and then eventually a bunch of people started doing cold calling, and then they started doing all these other things like PPC and all that. But my point is, marketing is like fashion. It's always in and out of style. There's always something that works, but eventually everybody starts doing it, and it starts to become more saturated, and so you got to start zigging while everyone else zags. And I'm going to tell you here in one of these other lessons what I am doing to zag right now in the market. Lesson number 3, your budget will determine your channel. So all of us cannot do TV commercials. All of us cannot do PPC. You know, your budget and what you're willing to spend will determine what marketing channels you can even do. So there's two different ways to market, right? There's basically outbound marketing, which is where you are the one reaching out to them. So this would be, you know, things like cold calling, text. This would be, you know, door knocking, bandit signs, those types of things. So you are just, essentially, you are putting in work on the labor side of things in order to get in front of sellers. Now, the cool thing about outbound is it takes very little money to do. In fact, you know, this is what we always recommend new beginner students to do when they join us at Wealthy University. We're like, hey, you know, you can get our CRM, you can text, you can cold call, you can do everything from the CRM. You can pull data from Wealthy Deals. You know, we have everything that you need to get started with outbound marketing for less than $1,000, okay? And to this day, I highly recommend doing those channels. Now, if you're somebody who's going to spend big bucks, you're going to go spend over $10,000 a month, $20,000 a month, whatever the case is, well, odds are you're probably going to start going into inbound marketing, right? Inbound marketing are things I was mentioning before, like TV, PPC, pay per lead. You know, you get the gist. These are when you are marketing and trying to get people to call in to you, right? So when I do a TV commercial, okay, I'm trying to get people to call in. When I do pay per click, I am getting somebody to, you know, search for, man, I want to sell my house fast for cash. And so hopefully they see my ad and they call us. Pay per lead, I'm just going to straight up buy leads of people who have said they want to sell their home. You know, another one would be Facebook ads or any kind of social media ads, right? I run ads all the time trying to get people to call in. Another one would be direct mail. You know, the point is, inbound marketing is going to be way more expensive. You know, your cost per lead is going to be so different. You know, over here, you might be able to generate cold call leads and text message leads for, you know, $10 a lead, right? Depending on how you want to qualify a lead. On these channels, right, like TV, PPC, pay per lead, you know, we were getting leads for $500 to even $800 a lead in just one lead. So you see, there's a drastic difference in cost. But here's the thing. Inbound is a lot more scalable. Okay, once you start to spend money at a high level, it's like, man, how many more callers can I go hire for cold calling? Like, we've already hit the entire list in Las Vegas. We can't even call them anymore. What are we going to call these sellers every day? So you have to start doing other channels that are easier to scale and get in front of different sellers who respond to different forms of marketing, right? A seller who watches TV may not be the same person who is going to answer a text message. They may not be the same person who responds to a Facebook ad or a piece of direct mail. So different sellers respond to different things, and so this is why you're going to have to try different marketing channels as you choose to scale. But pretty much every big spender I know likes to scale through inbound marketing because it's so much easier to do. So, at the end of the day, your budget's going to determine what marketing channel you end up using. Lesson number 4, and this one's going to be controversial, but I believe marketing should almost always be outsourced. At the end of the day, after doing this for so long and having spent millions of dollars on marketing, not just direct to seller, but I've also spent millions of dollars on social media ads for my education and my other businesses. I've spent millions of dollars producing organic content like this, and it is really hard and really expensive for 2 reasons to do it on your own, right? Reason number 1 is it takes a ton of skill. So if you're just getting into real estate, or even if you're successful, that does not mean you know how to do marketing. That doesn't mean you could go hop up on a YouTube video and go get a bunch of views making content like this. They're 2 separate skill sets, talking to a seller about buying a house and making a YouTube video. Also too, right? Learning to run ads. Are you really going to go learn how to do PPC? Are you really going to go learn how to run Facebook ads and write copy? At the end of the day, they're very difficult skills to learn, and for you to go learn that skill, it's probably going to take away from your actual real estate business. And so you're going to lose money trying to learn this skill. I mean, I can tell you that's what happened for me in 2020 when I decided I wanted to go all in on social media and make content and become a YouTuber and all this stuff. My real estate business took a hit for a minute because I was over here trying to go learn this skill, practice, get coached up, spend time, spend money, spend energy. And yeah, I learned the skill over years of doing it at a high level. And I was thankful that my real estate business could run without me in the background. But most people don't have that luxury. So reason number 1 of why I say you should almost always outsource your marketing is because you learning the skill is so difficult to do. But also too, the cost. So let's just say, you know what, Ryan? I don't want to learn the skill. I'm going to go hire out people for my own internal team. Well, let me tell you, you want to go build a marketing department and do it the right way? You're going to spend a lot of money, right? You're not going to hire just one person at $5K a month and like, this dude's a savage and he can just run your whole department. Like, no, dude, you want to go do it the right way? You're going to spend probably $20,000 a month to do it the right way. Okay, I'm talking about, all right, you got a project manager for the marketing, you've got a media buyer, you've got a copywriter, you've got a videographer for your ads, you've got editors for your ads, right? You start to see you need a lot of key people to build an actual marketing department. And you better make sure there's somebody with skill and vision. You better make sure that, hey, if you're gonna be on camera making ads, let's say you're doing social media ads, let's say you're doing TV commercial, you better make sure you are a good actor too and you have good camera presence, because at the end of the day, that's what it takes to do this at a high level. So, assuming you don't wanna pay that cost and you don't wanna develop that skill, then outsourcing makes a lot more sense, because you can just hire people to do it for you at a fraction of the cost, right? Like, I'll give you an example. First thing I did, I hired an agency to run my TV commercials. I did not want to go figure out how to buy media on TV. It's just not a skill set I wanted to learn. I had other skills that I wanted to learn over the years. I wanted to be great at social media. I wanted to be great at running these other businesses. I said, let me just pay this agency to go do it for me. Here's the thing, okay? With that agency, I paid a retainer every month. I paid a percentage of ad spend. I paid them over $500,000, okay, from our time working together. You might be saying, Ryan, holy crap, $500,000 just to the agency, okay? That's not counting the ad spend I spent. I spent millions of dollars on the actual ads themselves. But I was okay paying them that much money because guess what? I'm going to pay somebody anyways. If I build an internal team, it's going to cost me hundreds of thousands every single year. And, the agency ended up being cheaper to have during those years than building my own team in-house. And guess what? We still made millions of dollars. So even with their cost, it was all good. So at the end of the day, I think that hiring an agency to do your ads is a great thing. The only problem is finding good agencies. That's a whole different story for another thing. But like, even if you wanted to do cheap things, let's say it's cold calling and texting, well, you can hire VAs to do it, right? VAs are virtual assistants. You can pay them $5 an hour and they will cold call and text for you. Now, here's the thing, right? You could go hire VAs direct and they'll be cheaper, but you'll have to manage them. Some people can do it, some can't. Or you can just, once again, hire an agency to do VAs for you, and then you're going to probably pay $10 an hour or so. Either way, though, I would rather the VAs be making the cold calls versus somebody else because, you know, it's just going to be far more effective. Now, I will say, if you're just starting out, I do think that it is important for you to get on the phone and talk to sellers. So I don't think cold calling is bad by any means when you're first starting out, especially if you have no money. You don't have a choice. Get on the phones and make calls. But eventually, I do think that you need to be outsourced to VAs. The third way you can outsource is actually with my company, Lead Kitchen. So we are partnering up with real estate investors all across the country. We are using my ads that I've already created, that I've tested, that I've built my own team with and spent the millions of dollars perfecting. We're using all of my stuff across the country and getting the cheapest inbound leads that I've seen. Far cheaper than pay per lead, pay per click, TV commercials, everything else. The quality is just as good, but the cost is a fraction of the price because we have mastered these skills and I've built my own in-house team and I already have the ads. I already have it all. All I got to do is just put it in your market. So that's exactly what we're doing with Lead Kit. So if you want seller leads in your market as soon as tomorrow, we could literally start running my ads in your market and get it going, and you're going to have leads on autopilot. So if you want to learn more about that, you can go to leadkitchen.com and go apply. We don't work with everybody. You got to be an investor who's actually making it happen because we work off profit split. You know, so if you win, I win, we win together. So go check it out, leadkitchen.com, to learn more about that. But that leads to lesson number 5. Speed to lead is crucial. I cannot tell you how many people don't get deals, and this is the reason why. They don't take speed to lead seriously. So I'll give you a couple of stats here, okay? Stat number 1 is this. We call this the 5-minute rule. If you do not hit a lead within the first 5 minutes of them hitting your system, your conversion drops by 80%. Think about that. 80% your conversion drops because you didn't talk to the lead in 5 minutes. Like, that is such a big, important thing, especially with our clients at Lead Kitchen, that we stress to them. We're like, look, okay, if we're going to generate these leads for you, you're paying for them, okay? You better hit them in 5 minutes because it's going to drop 80% if you don't. That's what the statistics say. And so 5-minute rule is super important. Now you might be saying, Ryan, how the heck do I got to be on my phone all the time? Do I have to, like, what do I do? Well, it's pretty easy to get to a lead in 5 minutes because of a good CRM. So we have our CRM. You guys can get it, wealthycrm.com. I'm not here to pitch you on that. I'm just here to tell you that you better have a CRM that automates you talking to the prospect instantly. So what our CRM does is the moment a lead comes in the system, within a minute, it says, hey, you know, it's awesome that you reached out to us, you know, in some variation of when's a good time to talk about your cash offer for your home. That way, they know we are serious. We don't have to physically call them in 5 minutes. Like, obviously, we want that too. Like, I train our team and we train our clients at Lead Kitchen to call them within 5 minutes too. But at the very worst, let's make sure that we get a text message automated to them through our CRM. There's no excuse for not doing that. And so the 5-minute rule is so crucial. If you're not doing that right now and you take nothing away from this video other than this will literally 5x your conversions if you're not doing this. So super important here, okay? Another statistic I'll tell you is that there's basically a 21x drop if you don't hit them in 30 minutes. So we should never even think about this one because we're gonna, you know, hit them in 5, but if 80% wasn't bad enough, imagine a 21x drop if you don't hit them in the next 30 minutes. The reason is, if you don't talk to them, somebody else is. These guys aren't only shopping you, you know? If you don't hit them back in a minute, they're going to go look somewhere else. We live in this world where we have such low attention spans, and so you've got to hit your leads quick. So speed to lead is crucial. Get a good CRM. That is a must. Lesson 6, spending more doesn't always lead to making more money. Now, I've made this mistake so many times in my career. You know, we've been doing good as a team. You know, we'll have good months and, you know, let's say we're spending $50K a month and all of a sudden I'm like, you know what? Screw it, guys. Let's crush it this next month. We're going to double the budget. Let's do 100K. I've done this a couple of times and you think I would learn by now, but I haven't. So I'm just going to tell you what happens, okay? Usually, when you decide to double your budget or something like that, the sales team is not ready. And the reason is they just don't either have the capacity to handle that many leads. And the reason is you probably just don't have enough of a sales team, right? Like they were doing really good with the leads they have. And sales guys will always tell you, hey, give us more leads. We want more leads. And you decide to go double the leads. And then all of a sudden you see you don't get double the return. I've even had it where we made the same amount of money, even though I doubled the marketing budget. Now you might be saying, well, how does that happen? You know, if they have so many more leads, they should close more deals. The problem is, when they get overwhelmed with leads, they don't take the old leads seriously, right? Because they only have so much time in the day. So if you're a salesperson, are you going to go hit old leads that you had a week ago or 2 weeks ago? Or are you going to go hit the lead you just got today? Well, if you were listening to the lesson before, speed to lead's important. So you're going to prioritize this new lead you got today. And therefore, you kind of neglect the older leads because you don't have enough time to hit them all. And so spending more doesn't always lead to more money in most cases because your sales team just is not ready for it. You need to personally hire more sales team if you're going to spend more money, or, you know, don't do what I did and just go rip the budget right off the bat. Slowly raise the budget. Like, okay, we spent 50K this month. Next month, we're going to increase 20%. We're going to go spend 60K. And that allows you to test and see how the sales team is doing. You know, there's another thing called the law of diminishing, you know, returns, right? And basically it just says that, you know, at some point, you're not going to make money if you keep spending. So we might be spending 20K a month and doing great. And then we spend 40K a month and, you know, we're not doing as good, but we're still doing good. We're still making money. We're hitting at least our 3X that I talked about earlier. And then at some point you start spending 100 and then all of a sudden you're like breaking even, right? Because if I spend $1 million today, I'll just tell you, with my current team, we wouldn't make $1 million. We'd lose money because it's not that we have a lack of leads. It's just I spent way more than my team's capacity to handle. And probably as you start spending more, it's not probably, this is actually for sure, your cost per lead starts to rise. And so maybe your cost per lead, let's just say, was $200 at 20K. Then you noticed as you spent 50K, it jumped to $240. And you're like, all right, well, that's still good. And then all of a sudden you spend 100K and your cost per lead is now $500, okay? At some point, you start to lose returns as you scale. And so usually what has to happen in order to scale is not just spending more money, but it is getting more sales team, like I said, and then it's probably new channels. You know, at some point you're going to cap out whatever your current marketing channels are. Like I said, if you're just cold calling right now and you're like, oh man, we got 5 VAs and we're cold calling and we're doing all this stuff. And then all of a sudden you're like, let me go get 10 VAs or 15 VAs. Let's call. You realize you're just hitting the same sellers like every day now. So you realize like, oh man, that didn't work. I can't just go hire more VAs and then all of a sudden we make more money. You could go to a new market and do that, right? You could pull data now and say, oh, we're not just in Vegas. Now we're going to SoCal, right? That would lead to a better result in a lot of cases if you start to get diminishing returns. Most of you starting out though, let me just be clear, okay? I want to be ultra clear. If you are not spending 20K, 30K plus a month, this doesn't apply to you, all right? You just aren't at this level yet where you're going to get diminishing returns, okay? You're like, Ryan, I got 2 VAs right now, man. Am I going to start to get diminishing returns when I get 4? No, okay? You're not at that level yet. But once you start spending a good chunk of change every month, you will start to see it. Lesson number 7, there is no magic list. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, there are certain marketing channels where you got to pull lists, right? So cold calling, text messaging, direct mail, things like that. Who are the people you're going to first hit? And so you're going to go create a list. And so some common things people will search for on a list would be, you know, pre-foreclosure, right? You know, who's in foreclosure? Those are the people we want to hit. Some people might hit absentee. They're saying, right, give me a list of people who don't live there. You could do high equity, This would be people who have lots of equity in the home or potentially own it free and clear. They have no lien. You could do low equity. Low equity is actually very good if you're trying to do creative finance and take property sub 2. You could search liens. You could search, how long they've owned it for. You could search lots of different things. My point is, there's lots of lists that you can build. And then, once you come up with all these different, liens and seller types, you then do what's called list stacking. And so you say, man, I only want absentee owners, in this market that have high equity in their homes, and they've got some liens on them. So, even though they own their homes, they have high equity, they're not paying their bills, right? And so that could be a good list, and that's great. And by the way, we have a tool called Wealthy Deals. You go to wealthydeals.com that allows you to pull lists all across the country, get their phone numbers, and do all that stuff, okay? So go check it out whenever you got time if you don't have a way to do it. Now, with that being said, people are like, so Ryan, what's the best list? The answer is, there is no magic list, guys. Like, at the end of the day, I'll tell you what the magic is. The magic is volume. Literally, I'll just circle it. Volume is the list. That's it. Just talk to a lot of people. Text a lot of people, call a lot of people. That's it, okay? When I was doing a ton of cold calling, you know what my list was? You want to know? My list was Las Vegas. You're like, Ryan, what do you mean? Like, what was the rest of the list? It was literally everyone in Las Vegas. That was my list. I said, if I just call everyone in Las Vegas frequently, I'm going to get everybody on a list. There's no way I don't hit them all. So, volume is always going to win in the long run, especially when you're trying to scale. Now, is a list important for other things, right? Direct mail. Yeah, I'm not going to mail everyone in Las Vegas. That's going to cost too much money. So if I want to mail everybody, then sure. I can pull a high quality list. I can do some list stacking. There are other things, right? With Wealthy Deals, we even have something for AI scoring. It's a great tool. Don't get me wrong. But, when you do the AI scoring, you're going to get a very small list, and that's great. We can go direct mail that list. But for me, I'm not just going to only cold call that list. Like, I have everyone's data. I'll just cold call everybody. So, at the end of the day, volume is always going to win. There's no magic list. Lesson 8 is another controversial one, but you only need one marketing channel. People are like, Ryan, I'm thinking about cold call. I'm thinking about some direct mail. I'm thinking about maybe doing lead kitchen. I'm thinking about, all these different things, right? The truth of the matter is, if you're just getting started, and once again, let's say you're not spending a lot, you're spending let's say you're spending under 20K, all right? Under 20K, you can get by with just one marketing channel. You don't need all this other stuff. I mean, for years, I pretty much have always been one marketing channel, depending on whatever it was, right? So for years, right, all I did was cold call. We did great with cold calling, made millions of dollars. Then for years, all I was TV. That's great. We did that for years. Did we have other stuff? Sure. We did a little bit of text, a little bit of cold call, but 90+% of our revenue was made from TV. Now, what are we doing? We're mainly just doing social media marketing, okay? We're going through Facebook, getting ready to test YouTube and TikTok and other things, and I'm all in on it. Right? I don't even run my TV commercials anymore. And look, the reality is, I've got a pretty big operation where we've got lots of salespeople, we're going to do millions of dollars this year, and we're pretty much just doing it with one marketing channel. So what does that tell you? You don't need all these marketing channels. People will tell you, dude, you got to be diverse. You got to have all these different things. It's hard enough to manage one and get it going good. How are you going to manage 5? You're going to go manage your callers for cold calling, then you're going to go manage your PPC budget, then you're thinking about Facebook ads, and then you're going to, do this. You only need to dominate one channel to be great at direct-to-seller marketing. And so, goes back to what I was saying in one of the previous lessons too. I believe if you find a good agency, whether that's PPC for you, whether that's Lead Kitchen and you have us do your social media marketing, whether that's, a good agency to do VAs. If you find a good agency and a good company to go run it for you and automate it, just keep spending money with that company until it just gets those diminishing returns we talked about. But like I said, to get to diminishing returns, you got to spend a lot of money before that really ever happens, okay? So at the end of the day, you really only need one channel, guys. Don't let people tell you got to be diverse and do all this stuff. Is it cool to like have those other things in the background being tested? For sure. But once you figure out a winner, go all in on the winner and just crush with it. Lesson 9, you got to have multiple exits, AKA multiple exit strategies. So back in the day, all we would ever offer was a cash offer. We'd be like, yeah, you know, you want cash for your house, whatever, right? Well, dude, if you don't have multiple exits today, it's hard to compete. So you got to be able to do creative finance. You know, you got to be able to also offer a listing. And then you got to also be able to do the cash, right? And think about it. If somebody goes to a seller and they're a realtor and all they can offer them is a listing, but you can also offer that plus these other ways that they can make money, well, you're going to have a better chance of closing that deal. If we didn't know how to do creative finance and do things like novations and sub-twos and options and all these different things, oh man, it'd be hard to still be in business. We could have got away not doing it 5 years ago, but today you need to do it to be creative and to be competitive. So for me, you know, it always starts off actually in this order. We first want to go for cash. If we can't get cash, then we'll go for creative. If we can't get creative, then we'll go for a listing. That's how we do it. And so you got to learn how to do this. And if you have no idea how to talk to sellers, you have no idea how to do exits, like I said, you can join Wealthy University for a free trial, wealthyuniversity.com. You can join. We have courses on how to do creative finance. We have our community. We have coaching calls. We have all that stuff. And so you can learn how to pitch these things better. Like sales training is so important. And like, let me just add to this. Like, I should have probably just said this from the get-go. Your sales have to be on point for you to win with marketing. Like clearly, if you don't know how to close deals, how the heck is any marketing going to work for you? You could have the biggest laydown ever in front of you, but you don't know what to do because you're just not good at sales yet. And so having multiple exit strategies is part of becoming great at sales. So lesson 10, in person is best. For me, you're always going to make more money going on in-person appointments with sellers, right? If somebody calls you, they want an offer on their house, if they seem motivated, it is always best to go in person. Now, that being said, you might have seen me say, Ryan, you know, aren't you guys closing properties nationwide? You know, aren't you doing that virtually? Yes, I've closed many deals virtually nationwide. I've closed far more in person locally. And for me, now that I've just spent a bunch of money going nationwide, I've spent a bunch of money locally in Vegas, the common denominator is that when you go in person, number one, you get a better deal, right? You're always going to be able to negotiate it far cheaper in person, okay? 2, you get less fallout. What I noticed by being virtual was that we had way more fallout, and I don't blame it, right? It's hard to build trust with a seller. They're selling their most precious asset, and if you never go see the property in person, nobody ever goes, you don't have that first initial conversation, your fallout is higher, you get sellers who want to back out, you get all these other things that happen when you're just purely virtual. Now, I'm not saying it can't work, but man, I'll tell you this. We are now focused on taking everything we do in person. That's literally like why I started Lead Kitchen. I said, you know what? Instead of me trying to go close all these deals nationwide virtually, what if I just ran my marketing for other people who could go in person in their local markets? We're going to be far more effective at closing deals. They're going to be local experts. We are not. And so overall, we're going to do what we do best, which is marketing and getting attention and getting leads. They're going to do what they do best, which is just closing and selling in their market. And so I am a firm believer that in person is always going to be best. You get better deals, or you have less fallout. And then also, too, it helps with your follow-up. Because when you actually go meet somebody in person, even if you don't get the deal, rapport has been built. And now the follow-up becomes easier. They trust you, they get you, they understand you. And so now nobody could tell me that just strictly being virtual is a better business model than in person. Like, I just firmly believe that. I've done both. I think you can be in other markets, but you need in-person boots on the ground in whatever market you're in. So for me, we are going to start going in other markets, but we're going to be very particular on which market, where I know that I have a great salesperson who can go on appointments and lock up these deals, and markets that we can just go double down in and be deep in versus being shotgun across everywhere, okay? So in person's best. But anyways, hopefully You got a lot out of this. Real estate investors, direct to seller is amazing. You just got to do it the right way. We'd love to help you out. So make sure you subscribe to this channel, and I'll see you on the next video. Peace.